What's up, everybody? Welcome into yet another edition, the 75th edition of the Baseline Jumper podcast. I'm Jason Goldstein, and joining me live from the wiffle ball fields of Pittsburgh, my partner, Ben McDonald. Ben, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, my friend? I really enjoyed your voice had a little more excitement to it at the start of this one. You can tell it's playoff basketball time.
Oh, there's so much to unpack. We were just talking before the show about some feedback on the interview with Anthony Puccio. Thanks again, Pooch, for coming on, and just the national recognition young Pooch has received over the last week or so. First Take, Boomer and Geo. This man's making the rounds.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We have him on the show to discuss his article, and right after Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman are discussing him on First Take, talking about his prediction there. And you know what? I think he's equipped himself well here. I think he's put himself in a spot, and I'm interested to see what happens this off season. But it was really great to hear him talk about it because I mean, there's just not many writers out there with more knowledge of the game, more passion for it than Mr. Puccio himself.
Now, before we get into the playoffs, and we have a lot to unpack here with some non-NBA playoff news, can you just imagine if it was quoted on First Take that said Anthony Puccio on Baseline Jumper, and we got credited for his breaking news that high-priority free agents might consider the Brooklyn Nets in free agency?
That's what we should have done. We should have gotten a little sound bite, so we could have gotten the aggregators going, and then it would really be up there, Jason. But we're happy just doing this show. I mean, I've said to people, I always say it, but it's the best part of my week getting to talk hoops with you, and it's great because we have so much to chat about. We had Puccio on last week, and now, Jason, we have lots to discuss this week, including just forget the playoffs for a second, and the playoffs have been phenomenal. This second round has been incredible. We're also seeing coaches moving around, Jason.
Yeah, I think the big one is Monty Williams. He's had a tough road ever since he was an assistant in Oklahoma City, and he lost his wife. He ends up coming back into the coaching ranks, was with San Antonio, then got the head assistant job under Brett Brown in Philly, and now in the ever-changing world of head coaches in Phoenix, Monty Williams is going to the Suns. Do you think that's a good move for him and for the organization?
Yeah, I was going to ask you the same thing. This is a move that's going to be very interesting to see because, this is a Suns team that felt like they really underachieved. This was one of your breakout teams, a team you really thought was going to come out and really be gangbusters this season, and it turned out that they underachieved again. There's a ton of talent. They have a chance to win the lottery again. They could end up with, Zion Williamson, or they could end up with one of a number of other really solid players towards the top of the draft. So there's a lot of talent here. It's going to be very interesting to see what Williams runs, what kind of offense he decides to go with. Obviously, Igor, their coach from last year, he really struggled. He didn't really find a way to get through to this team or really put together a cohesive identity. And that's going to be the first thing with Williams is that those Suns fans in Phoenix, they have great fans, but they need an identity. And that's one of the things they lacked, I thought, last season, Jason. There was just no identity for this team. They were terrible on defense. The only identity they really had on offense was just getting the ball to Devin Booker and getting out of the way. And they can't do that again. What do you think, Jason? You think Williams has a chance to turn this around?
I do. He's inheriting two franchise cornerstones in Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. I think we'll see a heavy dose of pick and roll. And then the Suns are guaranteed a top 5 pick. We'll know this time next week the draft lottery order, which we'll be covering extensively here on Baseline Jumper. But I think out of all the open coaching positions, I think the Suns might have been the most attractive. I know the West is very competitive, but you've seen the turnarounds that Portland made and Denver made and what New Orleans and Minnesota failed to do. So there's opportunity in the West, and I think Monty Williams is headed to a good spot for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great job for him. The other domino that fell, which I'm going to be honest with you, Jason, I kind of couldn't help but laugh when I saw this, but Ty Lue is back with LeBron, Jason. He's coming back to where he won his championship, which is LeBron land. This time it'll be in Los Angeles with a team that's got. It's hard to say if there's more or less dysfunction with the Lakers than there was with the Cavaliers, but probably a similar level, I would say, of dysfunction. He inherits a young team that might go any one of a number of directions. It's going to be really interesting, Jason, because I almost feel like the Ty Lue move is the foreshadowing for the Anthony Davis trade. Because I think we both know that Ty Lue's not coming in to coach younger players. He's coming in to help LeBron win a championship, help him make the playoffs, etc. And it makes you think that this is a team that's, if you had any doubt before, not going to be biding its time. Did you feel the same way, or what do you make of this hire?
Well, it's not official yet, but Yahoo Sports is reporting that he celebrated his birthday with a Lakers-themed cake. So I think he's just got to dot some T's, cross some I's, or cross some I's, dot some T's, whichever way Ty Lue wants to do it. But it looks like he is bound for the City of Angels. I think it's a good move because they have LeBron James there. And that's the one situation where the coach outlasted the player, because LeBron James, outside of Eric Spoelstra, has been a notorious coach killer. Ty Lue ended up getting fired after LeBron left Cleveland when the Cavs started 0-6 just this past regular season. So he's coming in, he's getting a roster that is ready to win now, but I don't know how many pieces they're going to have in place next season to contend in the West when you have the Clippers, the Knicks, the Nets, a lot of these teams with cap space competing with the Lakers to sign these free agents. The Lakers could get a decent draft pick next week. We don't know how those balls are going to fall in the lottery, but the Lakers are a work in progress. But at the very least, they now bring in a coach that LeBron James trusts, and that's more that you could say they had last year with Walton and with Magic.
You know what, Jason? I was going to hold off, but I'm launching in right now, Jason. It's heating up. We're getting some 70s and 80s here in Pittsburgh. It's beautiful. And for that reason, and because I have some thoughts on Ty Lue, I'm going to launch straight into my heat check of the week, Jason.
I'm on fire. Here's a heat check. Fireball. You don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball. Bang! Bang!
And this week, I want to talk about this. I think that the biggest problem with this move, Jason, is it is yet another example of a team catering to LeBron with no consideration of their long-term future. And we saw this in Cleveland, and now Cleveland is a bit of a dumpster fire because they had no plan post-LeBron. The first time, the same thing happened, and the only thing that saved them was LeBron coming back. And I feel like the Lakers are playing the same tune. By going to Ty Lue, they're getting a coach who really didn't show a whole lot in Cleveland. He's great after timeouts, but otherwise nothing to write home about. And it just shows that they're catering to LeBron instead of all the rest of their team. And, I mean, I said that this, to me, signals that a lot of those young players are out the door. It signals to me that they're trying to win right now. And I get it. They have LeBron, and whenever you have one of the best players in the NBA, you want to try and win. But on the other hand, Jason, they have nice young players. There's some value in just growing what you've got and letting it mature and trying to build a sustainable franchise. And this feels like yet another team that's ready to put all the chips on the table with LeBron and kind of let it ride on whatever he does. And I wonder if they're not going to be a little bit regretful later on when they look back and they realize that they sacrificed everything in their war chest to try and win. And if it doesn't work, Jason, then they're going to be left with nothing.
Wow. I was not expecting the heat check to come hot and heavy this early, but I agree with you. I think if Lonzo Ball's there, he could benefit from a championship point guard under Lue's tutelage, but we don't know if Ball's going to be there. We don't know if Ingram's going to be there, Kuzma, Josh Hart, a lot of these young guys. We're really looking at a blank slate of LeBron James and whoever LeBron tries to recruit to LA. He already started with the head coach, and we'll see if they can pull off a trade for Anthony Davis during or around the NBA draft, or they're going to see if maybe Kawhi Leonard wants to come and play alongside LeBron, maybe like a Jimmy Butler. But LeBron needs some guys that can shoot. He kind of went the veteran defensive route of guys that couldn't shoot the ball for their lives, and it backfired last season because the Lakers missed the playoffs. They have one of the longest playoff droughts in the NBA. And you're right, Ben. I don't know if Ty Lue's going to fix that. But while we're on the subject of coaches, I know you're fired up right now, but I am dusting the cobwebs off of Ben's Bulls Blues because we were not expecting to have Bulls news. Maybe we would touch on them next week, depending on what pick they get in the lottery. But after Ben was calling for this man's head for months, the Chicago Bulls up and extend Jim Boylan's contract. He will now be the head coach in Chicago for multiple seasons, and I need to get your thoughts on this.
Oh, it's terrible. It's awful. I don't know if you can find a corner of the internet that supports this move. I mean, pretty much every Bulls blog out there, every sports blog that you can find is against this move, and it's easy to see why. Boylen just has really done nothing to earn another coaching job. And if you want to figure out why they're doing this, I would say look no further than two places. One, the owner Jerry Reinsdorf, who has been notoriously cheap during his tenure as the Bulls owner, not wanting to even run back championship teams in Chicago with Jordan, begrudgingly doing it for a few years. And then the other, Jason, is of course that Gar Forman and John Paxson are still in the front office, and to get rid of Boylen would signal that they failed. So they want to show success. They want to say positive things. They want to say that he's done a good job. I don't think that that's really been the case. I think that they're trying to save their skins. And what I think really hurts Bulls fans is if the Bulls underachieve next year, there's a good chance that the leash will finally run out and we'll watch that front office get replaced and we'll be stuck with Jim Boylen or stuck paying Jim Boylen with another coach. So I thought that was a terrible move. I'm really disappointed, and I'm even more disappointed with the thought of another talented rookie coming in and not having a long-term coach come in to coach them. So hopefully something will change. I'm going to try and be positive and give him a chance next year, but not looking good, Jason. Also not looking great. Unfortunately, we have a twofer here, a little bit more negative. Your Nets news of the week this week, Jason. Not as positive as it could be, but not maybe as bad as some people think.
Well, everybody knows what happened. D'Angelo Russell, cited for marijuana possession, issued a summons trying to smuggle it through his check bag at LaGuardia Airport. He was heading to his hometown of Louisville, Kentucky. It was Derby week, and he tried to bring some marijuana with him, and he got caught. I think 10 years ago, this would have been a much bigger deal. But Adam Silver has been a known proponent of trying to get it legalized for NBA players. They know the stress of the NBA season and being in the spotlight. They know players maybe like to partake in that activity during the season or during the off season. I don't think this is a terrible deal for D'Angelo Russell. He's just 23 years old. His maturity has come tenfold. He made the All-Star team. He led the Nets to the postseason for the first time in 4 years. A lot of the premier media outlets are reporting that this will not affect Russell's relationship with the Nets or with free agency. It's just worth mentioning on this podcast. It's 2019. I don't think it's a big deal. I think that Adam Silver is doing everything he can to make marijuana just a slap on the wrist or less for NBA players. He didn't have an amount on him that was an arrestable offense. So, yeah, it's worth mentioning, but I don't think it's too big of a deal. I mean, do you have any thoughts on it?
I just think if you're there, does he not have anyone with him? If you're D'Angelo Russell, you got to have your friend say that's his or something like that. You don't put it in your own bag.
Well, he tried to blame it on his older brother, and the cops were just like, nah. But TSA let him slide. He got on the plane. I mean, I don't know what more to say about it. We'll have a lot more Nets news to come in later weeks, obviously. I'm just surprised that this was such big news because he's 23 years old. Things happen. I'm not going to sit here and bash him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, if anything, his hiding spot was quite inspiring. I think it was a fake bottom of an Arizona iced tea or something I saw, which is phenomenal. I love that he's got that in the closet, just waiting for his trips back to Louisville. But
there were a lot of green teams talking about that, so it is what it is. I think Russell will still get his money. I want him back in Brooklyn because real quick before we get to the playoffs, and I know we'll probably start with the Celtics series, the Las Vegas odds for the team likeliest to land Kyrie Irving and Caesars out in Las Vegas put the Nets at the top of the list, giving Brooklyn the best odds at landing Kyrie, followed by the Knicks, the Celtics to retain him, and then the Lakers. So those are the top four odds-wise. But I just want to say real quick, I'm not buying into the hype. I know the only way the Nets land Kyrie Irving is if they get an agreement with Kevin Durant, and then Durant says, I want Kyrie, not D'Angelo Russell. I think that the Nets would be much better off going with their young, homegrown, rising star who just made his first all-star team. You've said it countless times. D'Angelo Russell has the higher ceiling than Kyrie Irving, whose attitude and poor play, which we'll get into,